In this video, I will show you 3 incredible places to visit in South Australia. We spent a few months exploring this state on our big lap of Australia, and there are so many different places to visit here. Throughout the video, I will share some of the campgrounds we stayed at, travel tips and recommendations on what to do in each area, so keep watching because you don't want to miss any of these places. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe not to miss any weekly videos. And let's jump into it with the first place you need to visit. So the first place you need to visit is the Eyre Peninsula. This is one of the most famous peninsulas in South Australia, and for a very good reason. This is the first campground we stayed at, and it is on the east coast. It is amazing, the views are stunning, and there are lots of free camps available here, so I'll link this below. Moving on from this, we then moved on to Whyalla, where there is a famous jetty there. We saw some pelicans, we also saw some resident dolphins. Another free camp really close to the beach is this one. I'd highly recommend saving it and adding it to your list. It's a great stopover. One of my favourite areas on the Eyre Peninsula is Lincoln National Park, which, as you can see, it's right at the bottom of the peninsula, but it's absolutely brilliant. So there's some great camping here. We stayed at some awesome campgrounds. This was one of our favourites, which was called Engine Point. We also stayed at the Fisherman's Point as well. So both awesome campgrounds, and I wish we spent a few more days here. So I'd probably say just spend a couple more days here if you can. It is well worth it. Some epic sunsets, and yeah, just a great national park to explore. There's also some awesome hiking around there as well. So yeah, lots to do and lots of wildlife. Up next, we have an area which we weren't sure whether to visit or not. It's called Whalers Way, and we are so happy that we actually went. So this was one of my favourite places on the Eyre Peninsula, if not in Australia. It is so rugged and different to other places I've seen. You have to pay $40 to enter into Whalers Way, which does include the camping for the night, so that's quite good. And as you can see from the scenery, it is absolutely breathtaking. There's also one of my favourite campgrounds there, which is called Red Banks. So that is quite a drive into Whalers Way, but well worth it. I would recommend a 4-wheel drive. I think it does say to have a 4-wheel drive as well, but this is us camping with our own beach right there, and it's just absolutely stunning. So it is a bit of a 4-wheel drive track getting in. Yeah, it's very rugged. It's very unspoiled. There isn't a lot of people there, or there wasn't when we were there, which was nice. But yeah, it's just a real experience of freedom and ruggedness and being fairly remote. Even though you're not too remote, we didn't have phone signal or anything. But yeah, it's well worth visiting, especially if you have a 4-wheel drive, obviously. This is definitely one of my favourite campgrounds. Next up, we have Coffin Bay. And if you haven't heard of Coffin Bay, it is a beautiful area to visit. I would highly recommend visiting Oyster HQ if you're looking for a delicious meal with stunning scenery. It looks over the water. There is a caravan park opposite, which we stayed at. After you visited Coffin Bay, you can make your way into the national park, which is absolutely stunning. I'd highly recommend visiting there. I will put a link to the video so you can see exactly where we went in Coffin Bay, another YouTube video. But yeah, well worth checking out. There are some beautiful beaches there, and some of it is 2-wheel drive accessible as well. So you don't necessarily need a 4-wheel drive. There are some more extreme 4-wheel driving tracks if you want to go further into the national park. Another place to visit is this famous cave on the peninsula. I'll put a link to it in the description, but it's absolutely fascinating. I would highly recommend going at low tide if you can, because you can actually walk around the corner. So if you're facing the ocean, take a right, and you can walk around to see the rock pools, which are more visible at low tide. So I'd highly recommend just getting the timing right. But as you can see, it's quite fascinating to have a look at. And yeah, you can walk around there and check out all these different rock pools. It's a great place to visit, and I'd highly recommend it. Another campground to check out would be Point Brown. I would recommend a full drive here. You can see here it's pretty sandy in places, and yeah, we took the wrong turn and went into some soft sand. But yeah, it's stunning. There's quite a few free camps here. We just spent the one night here. It's quite beautiful, and as you can see, it's rugged, and yeah, it's a great free camp. Just past Ceduna, there is a pink lake called Point Sinclair Pink Lake. Well worth checking out. It's just as you're leaving the Eyre Peninsula, or just as you're arriving, depending on what way you're coming from. It is pretty stunning. You can drive through the middle to get this iconic shot, and yeah, I'd highly recommend checking it out. The next place I'm going to show you is Kangaroo Island. This is an island off the coast of mainland Australia, so you do need to catch a ferry in order to get to the island. The ferry can be quite expensive and it books out quite far in advance, but it is well worth it. So yeah, it's a fantastic adventure. So there is a caravan park there where there are koalas just in the trees, so I'll link that below. But it is one of the most expensive campgrounds we stayed at, but it was well worth it. We had kangaroos, koalas, some unusual types of birds, but there is so much to do on Kangaroo Island. We spent 7 days there, and I will link the video in this video so you can check out our full itinerary on exactly what we did. A couple of beaches I would highly recommend, the first one being Stokes Bay. There is a really good campground there as well, and the campgrounds work on self-service machines. You buy a ticket at the campground and then you can stay there. We ended up staying 2 nights at Stokes Bay, which is one of our favourite beaches in Australia. It is unbelievable. So I'd highly recommend Stokes Bay. I'd also recommend Emu Bay. You can drive onto the beach. Again, I'd recommend a four-wheel drive. The sand was pretty hard, so we didn't have to use four-wheel drive. We didn't even have to lower our tyre pressures. Yeah, that was just a fantastic experience to spend the day on the beach. There's some really good hiking here. Snake Lagoon was an incredible hike, so I'd highly recommend that as well. Kangaroo Island is definitely one of my favourite places in the whole of Australia. It's really rugged. There's some beautiful beaches. There's also some really good wineries there. So we went to Dudley Wines, which had a really good value lunch special where we had pizza and some cheeses, and we also tasted the wine. So yeah, well worth checking out. Check out the full video, and yeah, definitely one of my favourite spots in South Australia, if not in Australia. Okay, so my favourite place to visit in South Australia was the Yorke Peninsula. This place was amazing, and there are so many great beaches to visit and things to do. So starting off with Flaherty Beach, which honestly is something which I haven't really seen before, a beach like that. You can drive onto the beach and it is massive. The colour of the water is very unusual and it's absolutely beautiful. And we spent the day here, which was just, a fantastic day to have lunch on the beach and just to really enjoy the atmosphere. Up next, we went to Parsons Beach, which was well worth checking out. Again, just another beach you can drive on. I love this about South Australia, how you could drive on so many of the beaches. Some of the best beach camping we did on our whole lap of Australia was here at Werrolty Beach. This was our first time camping on the beach and it was pretty special. So there is so much space here, but it does get pretty busy. So there are vans just parked all along the beach, but if you drive quite far down, you'll find your own, you should find your own spot which isn't as busy. That's exactly what we did. But yeah, cooking on the beach and just enjoying an incredible sunset. And this is free camping, can you believe it? This is a free camp, you can find it on Wikicamps. But definitely one to add to your list, and you could easily spend 2, 3, however many days here. We just spent 1 night here, but I kind of wish we spent a bit more time. But I'd also recommend visiting the national park. I'll put a name up of what the national park's called and a link to it below. But the national park was absolutely fantastic. Some really good hiking, some beautiful scenery, some awesome beaches once again. One place you can't miss is in the national park. It's called Dolphin Beach, and I guess it's called Dolphin Beach because there are wild dolphins who quite frequently can be spotted in the bay. So that wraps up this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe not to miss any videos, and I will see you in the next video.